Lucas Hart had everything a man could buy. Land that stretched farther than the eye could see. A mansion standing tall like a king's fortress. Horses worth more than most homes. And a bank account heavy enough to silence any problem. Except the one that mattered. 2 years had passed since the accident. 2 years since the world went silent in a way no amount of wealth could fill. Lucas tried everything. Travel, fast horses, loud nights, long empty mornings. But grief clung to him like winter frost, cold, unforgiving, silent. So he ran. Not from danger, but from memories. From the laughter that used to echo in the hallways. From a future he no longer understood. One evening, a storm rolled across the open plains, turning peaceful fields into angry waves of wind and rain. His truck skidded off the muddy road, tires sinking into wet earth. His rage rose. Even nature was determined to break him. But the ranch he stumbled upon wasn't his own. Faded fence posts leaned like tired soldiers. A barn roof hung open to the weather. And in the center of chaos stood 2 figures, elderly, determined, working with the slow, steady rhythm of people who had seen storms far worse than this one. Samuel and June Miller. Wrinkles carved by time, hands thick with labor. Eyes bright with something Lucas had forgotten. Purpose. They did not run. They did not complain. They fought the storm, not with money, not with anger, but with quiet faith and stubborn hearts. Lucas offered cash, a lot of it, enough to hire a crew, rebuild in days. Samuel simply wiped rain from his brow and smiled. Son, storms don't destroy a life. Running from them does. If you want to help, grab a shovel. Lucas froze. No one talked to him like that anymore. No one expected anything from him but his wallet. That night, soaked to the bone. Hands blistered, boots heavy with mud. Lucas felt something he hadn't felt in years. Not joy, not hope, but a spark, small, fragile, real. And sometimes, a spark is the beginning of a life rebuilt. The morning on the Miller's farm didn't greet Lucas with comfort. It greeted him with aching muscles, stiff joints, and the unfamiliar sting of honest labor. He woke up not in a silk-lined bedroom, but in an old guest room smelling of cedar and thyme. For a moment, he thought it was a nightmare manual work. Muddy boots by the door, and roosters instead of alarms. But then he looked out the window. Samuel was already outside, splitting wood with slow, practiced swings. June hung wet clothes on a line, steady and patient. Lucas stepped out, unsure why his feet carried him forward instead of back to his truck. Pride, curiosity, or maybe that spark from last night refused to die. Samuel didn't greet him with warm praise. No applause for showing up. The old man simply handed him gloves and nodded. Fence posts fell by the eastern pasture. Storm took half of M. We're putting M back. Lucas frowned. I could hire a crew and miss the point again. Samuel didn't even slow his swing. Money doesn't fix a man, son. Work does. It stung. Not because Samuel mocked him, but because somewhere deep, Lucas knew it was true. Hours passed. Lucas hammered, carried wood, dug holes. Every motion felt clumsy, foreign. Sweat soaked through his shirt. Blisters bloomed, angry and raw. June brought lemonade and bread, smiling like he had done something heroic instead of simply not walking away. Good hands, Lucas, she said gently. They just forgot what they were made for. Her voice held no judgment, only kindness. A kind he hadn't felt in years, since the world he loved was stolen in a moment of twisted metal and sirens. They ate on the porch. No grand table, no crystal glasses. Just sunshine, creaking wood, and peace so heavy it made his chest ache. June opened a thin leather Bible, pages soft from decades of fingers. She read quietly, simple words about patience, trial, and renewal. Lucas didn't listen at first, but he couldn't ignore the calm in her voice, the steadiness in Samuel's eyes. "You lost something big, son," Samuel said finally. "Storms don't leave a man untouched. But if you stop living, then the storm wins twice." Lucas stared at his hands, blistered, dirty, trembling. For the first time in years, he didn't feel powerful. But he didn't feel empty either. And maybe, just maybe, healing didn't start with running, but with staying. The second day brought no mercy, only expectation. Lucas woke before sunrise, not because he wanted to, but because Samuel knocked on the door once and walked away. No speeches. No soft reminders. Work started at dawn, like the world itself demanded it. Outside, mist rolled across the pasture, wrapping the land in pale silver. It was quiet, not the heavy silence of grief, but the living silence of mourning, where breath and earth seemed to move together. Lucas breathed it in. He didn't know why it felt different. Today's task was uglier. Mud, broken boards, tangled wire. The storm had torn up a cattle pen near the creek. Samuel handed Lucas a tool belt and simply said, "Let's set things right." There was something sacred in the simplicity. A problem. A solution. No endless thoughts. No polished excuses. Just hands and effort. Lucas struggled. He cursed under his breath when nails bent, when wood slipped, when old strength in Samuel's arms outshined his gym-built muscle. But for the first time in a long time, his anger didn't spiral into bitterness. It burned, then faded, replaced by grit he forgot he had. Halfway through the morning, a small pickup rattled down the dirt road. A young mother and two little kids hopped out. They brought warm biscuits and jars of peach preserves. The children ran to Samuel, hugging him without hesitation. "Mr. Miller helped fix our roof last spring," the woman said to Lucas softly. Noticing his confusion, "We don't have much, but we repay kindness best we can." Lucas watched, stunned. Samuel accepted the food like it was gold, thanking them as if he received a feast fit for royalty. When the family left, Lucas finally asked, "You help them, and they help you?" Samuel chuckled. "That's what neighbors do. A world falls apart when folks forget that." Those words sunk deep. Lucas thought of his estate, miles of fence, staff who followed orders but never stayed for coffee, gates locked tighter than his own heart. Wealth didn't build community. Habit did. Humility did. By evening, his body was a storm of aches. But something inside him felt strangely steady, like soil soaking. Rain after drought. June met them at the porch with warm stew and quiet pride. "You're learning," she said simply. Lucas didn't argue. He didn't joke. He only nodded. Because, for the first time in years, he realized he was not just surviving days. He was living them. By the end of the third day, Lucas had stopped checking his phone. The device lay silent on the nightstand, forgotten beneath a thin layer of dust and wood shavings. Out here, time didn't move by notifications, it moved by sunrise, sweat, and the rhythm of work and prayer. On this morning, the sky blushed pink as the sun pushed over the horizon. The world looked washed clean, like a promise whispered in light. Lucas pulled on his boots slowly, feeling the soreness in muscles that once only knew polished, gyms and expensive saddles. This soreness felt different, earned, deserved. Outside, June was feeding chickens. humming a tune that sounded older than the land itself. Samuel leaned against a fence post, sharpening a tool with calm confidence, the kind a man earned through decades of battle with wind, soil, and life. "Today," Samuel said, handing Lucas a weathered tool bag, "we start on the foundation." Lucas blinked. "Foundation? For the barn?" "For life," Samuel replied, almost amused. Then he nodded toward a corner of their property where storm-flattened boards lay in a sad heap. "But yes, the barn, first." They walked through dew-soaked grass. Birds scattered from fence rails. A distant cow called in the early quiet. Lucas inhaled deeply. The air tasted like earth and freedom, not perfume and polished marble floors. The task was daunting, digging trenches, leveling ground, hauling stones. Lucas stared at the piles, overwhelmed for a moment. His old instinct whispered, "Hire 10 men. Finish it in a day." But that voice didn't feel like strength anymore. It felt like fear, fear of effort, fear of stillness, fear of feeling. So he grabbed a shovel. The hours crawled. Sweat dripped from his brow. Soil clung to his jeans. His palms burned, blistered, hardened. But instead of frustration, there was clarity. Every strike of the shovel sank him deeper into the present. There was no past tragedy clawing at his heart, no future demanding answers. Only dirt, breath, effort, and purpose. During a short break, Samuel leaned on his shovel and wiped his forehead. "You know," he said softly, "a broken heart is like land after a storm." Lucas looked up, breathing hard. "How's that?" "Looks ruined. Feels hopeless. But if you tend it slowly, patiently, it can grow something stronger than before." Lucas stared at the ground. Soil sticking to his hands, stronger. He didn't know if he believed it yet. But for the first time, he wanted to. June's voice floated from the porch, calling them for lunch. Before walking back, Lucas paused, looking at the small trench they had dug. It wasn't much, but it was real. It was a beginning. And beginnings mattered. As they headed toward the house, Samuel's voice broke the quiet again. "You're not just rebuilding a barn, son. You're rebuilding a man." Lucas didn't answer. His throat tightened. His chest ached, not from work, but from something heavier. Something waking after a long sleep. By late afternoon, clouds gathered again, heavy and gray, dragging shadows across the fields. Lucas wiped dirt from his face, surprised by how natural it felt now, like dust was something earned, not avoided. The barn foundation was still only a skeleton of trenches and measurements, but to him, it looked like a monument. Proof that he could build something instead of watching life collapse around him. Proof that forward was still a direction he could walk. When thunder rumbled in the distance, Samuel didn't hurry. He simply lifted his eyes to the sky, with the calm recognition of a man who has made peace with nature long ago. "Storms coming," he murmured. "Good day's work. Good sweat. Let's get things covered." Together they dragged tarps, weighted them with stones, tied down wood piles. Lucas worked without instruction. Now, muscle memory developing where hesitation used to live. His movements had purpose, not panic. And yet, as lightning flickered over the hills, his chest tightened, not with fear of the storm, but fear of stillness that came after it. Activity had become a refuge, a shield against thoughts he still couldn't face. Inside the house, rain began to drum the roof in steady waves. June handed Lucas a towel and warm socks with the soft authority only a kind woman carries. "Sit, dry off. Soup's on the stove." He obeyed. It was odd, command from a gentle voice felt safer than freedom ever had. Samuel sat across from him at the kitchen table, steam swirling from mugs of tea. The old man didn't speak for a long time. Silence with him wasn't uncomfortable. It was like soil resting before another season of growth. Finally, Samuel leaned back, studying Lucas with eyes that had seen far more life than pain alone. "You've got a storm inside you that's louder than the one outside," he said quietly. Lucas stiffened. Everyone has storms. Not everyone tries to bury theirs in gold. The words hit like a hammer. Lucas's jaw clenched. He stared at his hands, rough and red. Nothing like the polished, perfect ones people used to shake at charity events and business meetings. "I thought money could fix things," Lucas whispered. "It can fix roofs," Samuel replied. "But it can't fix souls." The rain intensified, a curtain of sound. Lucas felt something inside him, a truth scraping raw edges he'd buried deep. "I lost my family," he said, voice breaking on the last word. He never spoke it aloud. Not once since the funeral. It tasted like sorrow and release. Samuel didn't offer empty comfort, didn't pat his shoulder or speak cliches. He just nodded slowly. "You loved deep," he said. "That kind of love leaves deep wounds. You don't heal by running from where it hurts." Lucas swallowed, throat tight. "And you think building a barn will fix me?" he muttered, half bitter, half pleading for it to be true. Samuel shook his head. The storm rolled away before sunrise, leaving the world washed and shining, like dawn had polished every blade of grass. Lucas stepped outside and breathed in the cool air. The land smelled of rain, soil, and renewal. Not the sterile scent of polished marble and air-conditioned halls, but life, raw and honest. Samuel was already up, leaning on a fence, coffee steaming in his hand. He didn't greet Lucas with a good morning. He simply nodded. The kind of nod men share when words aren't needed. "Ground's soft today," Samuel said. "Best time to set stones. Earth's ready." Lucas liked how he said it, as if the land and its moods mattered as much as people. As if patience was part of strength, not weakness. They walked to the barn site together. Frogs croaked near puddles, and birds hopped along fence lines, shaking water from their wings. The trenches they dug yesterday held rainwater, reflecting the pink morning sky like small broken mirrors. Lucas rolled up his sleeves. "Let's do it." He didn't say it out of obligation. He meant it. For the first time, the work didn't feel like punishment. It felt like purpose. Each stone they placed into the foundation carried weight. Not just on the ground, but in his chest. Each thud of rock against earth sounded like something inside him settling back into place. Around mid-morning, a car pulled up the dirt road, unfamiliar, shiny. Lucas stiffened. The door opened, and Mark Dalton stepped out, Lucas's business partner. Tailored jacket, expensive shoes, hairstyled like time itself bowed for him. Mark scanned the farm like he'd stumbled into another planet. "Luke, I've been trying to reach you. You vanished. No calls, no messages. Your staff didn't know where you were." Lucas wiped sweat from his brow. "I needed air." "Air?" Mark laughed sharply. "You owned 5 vacation homes and a private jet. You could have chosen Paris, not whatever this place is." He waved a hand as though the earth offended him. Samuel watched silently, leaning on his shovel. He didn't interfere. But he didn't step away either. He simply existed, steady as a tree, letting Lucas choose who he wanted to be. Mark lowered his voice. "Look, the company needs you back. Investors are nervous. You walking away like this, they're calling you unstable." The word pierced, deep, unstable. The same whisper that haunted him? Since loss turned his world inside out, Lucas stared at his blistered hands. Dirt stained into lines where wealth once pretended nothing could touch him. "Maybe I am," he said quietly. "Or maybe I'm just tired of pretending I'm fine." Mark sighed sharply, frustrated. "You're grieving, I get it. But you don't fix pain by playing farmer." Lucas looked at the foundation stones. Imperfect, heavy, real. "I'm not playing," he said softly. "I'm learning." Mark shook his head. "Call me when you're ready to return to reality." He didn't wait for a reply, just turned and left, tires spitting mud. Mark's car disappeared down the dusty road, but his words lingered like smoke in the air. For a moment, Lucas felt the old pressure return, the invisible weight of expectations, polished smiles, and boardroom silence. The world he came from demanded performance, not healing. Results, not honesty. But when he turned back toward the barn site, the weight loosened. Samuel hadn't moved. He stood quietly, hands resting on the shovel. Gaze steady and patient, not demanding, not judging, just present. "You good?" Samuel finally asked. Lucas took a slow breath. "I think so." The old man nodded. "Good storm inside you passed quicker than the one outside." They returned to work. It felt different now, not just physical labor, but an act of defiance against the life that once controlled him. Each stone he lifted, each shovel of earth he moved, felt like reclaiming ground inside himself too. By noon, they had a steady line of foundation stones set in place. June brought sandwiches and iced tea, her apron still dusted with flour. She didn't ask about the visitor. She didn't need to. June always knew what belonged to silence and what belonged to speech. "Bad news?" she asked gently. "Old news," Lucas replied. "I think I'm just done letting life push me around." A slow smile softened her face. "Good, a storm can shake you. Only you decide whether it roots you or uproots you." They ate on the porch steps. Chickens pecked near their boots, and the air hummed with insects waking in the warming day. Lucas looked at his blistered palms again. At first, he hated the soreness, the raw skin. Now, he saw them differently. These hands weren't symbols of brokenness, they were proof he was changing. After lunch, as they returned to the field, a young boy approached along the fence line. Barefoot, thin, maybe 9 or 10, with hair the wind refused to tame. He held a fishing pole made of a stick and string. "You folks need help?" the boy asked shyly. Samuel smiled. "Always." The boy set his pole down and immediately began hauling small stones without being asked. Lucas watched him, curiosity sparking. "You live nearby?" The boy nodded. "Miss June gives me books sometimes. Says every kid deserves a library." His face brightened with pride. "I'm reading one about a knight." Lucas felt something warm stir inside, a memory of reading bedtime stories. Tiny hands grabbing his sleeve. A small voice asking for just one more page. It hit him unexpectedly, like sunlight breaking through clouds. Not pain, remembrance, gentle, human. "What's your name?" Lucas asked softly. "Tommy." He worked with them until shadows stretched long across the grass. When he finally headed home, Samuel clapped Lucas on the shoulder. "You see," the old man said, "work isn't just about wood and nails. It builds more than buildings." Lucas nodded, watching the boy disappear down the road. Autumn slipped across the land quietly, trading warm gold mornings for sharp, breath-white dawns. The air tasted colder, Wind moved with purpose, and leaves abandoned branches like they knew what was coming. Winter approached, the kind that didn't ask permission. Lucas woke one morning to frost lacing the windows. His breath fogged in the chilly air as he pulled on wool layers. It wasn't comfortable, but comfort no longer felt like the point. He stepped outside and saw a thin layer of white on the ground, glittering like powdered glass. Samuel stood near the barn site, studying the sky like a man who could read weather the way others read newspapers. His coat was old, patched at the elbows, but he wore it with the quiet dignity of someone who never needed new to be whole. "We need the roof frame up before the first heavy snow," Samuel said. "Winter won't wait, and walls don't raise themselves." Lucas nodded. He no longer hesitated at difficult tasks. The old Lucas Hollow, restless, drowning in silence, would have hired a team. This version picked up a hammer. As they worked, Tommy arrived again, cheeks pink from the cold, books tucked under his arm. "School's closed," he announced proudly. "Frozen pipe." Samuel raised a brow. "And you figured frozen pipes mean free labor for the day." Tommy grinned. "I like helping." Lucas handed him a small bucket of nails. "Then you're hired." Tommy followed him around eagerly, peppering him with questions about horses, hammer swings, and if cowboys ever cried. Lucas paused. In the past, he would have laughed that question away. But now he answered with truth. "Everyone cries," he said softly. "Some just hide it better." Tommy studied him for a long moment, then nodded like he'd been given a secret he wasn't sure he was ready for. Around midday, as wind picked up, June came out with warm stew and blankets. She watched Lucas hammering beams with a rhythm steady and sure. "You work like someone who's found their reason," she said, handing him a bowl. Lucas took it, letting steam warm his face. "Maybe I'm still finding it." June smiled. "Sometimes purpose isn't discovered, it grows." Before Lucas could respond, Samuel staggered. Subtle, barely noticeable, but Lucas caught it. The old man's hand trembled briefly before he gripped a beam for support. His face paled, breath short for a moment. "Samuel..." Lucas stepped toward him. The old man straightened quickly, forcing a faint laugh. "Just winded. Happens." But Lucas wasn't convinced. His chest tightened with worry, a feeling he'd tried to seal away. A reminder of what losing felt like. For the first time since arriving, fear returned, not fear of storms outside, but storms that lived in the body, silent and merciless. Because Lucas knew this truth too well. Life didn't only break things with weather. Sometimes it did so quietly, from the inside. And the thought of losing another anchor made the cold bite deeper than the wind ever could. For the rest of the afternoon, Lucas watched Samuel more closely than the nails he drove into wood. The old man moved slower, his breaths deeper, his pauses a little longer. Pride kept him steady, but age whispered truth with every step. Lucas knew that whisper. It was the same voice that trailed doctors' halls. The same one he tried to drown in empty luxury and motion. The voice that said life gives, and life takes. When the sun dipped low and shadows stretched long, Samuel finally called it. "That's enough for today." Lucas wanted to push, to finish, to outrun the worry rising inside him. But the farm followed a wisdom. Different from his old world, some days were earned through effort, others through knowing when to rest. Inside, the fire crackled in the stove. June stirred a pot, humming softly, her eyes drifting to Samuel more often than usual. A quiet language between soulmates who had shared decades and storms. Lucas sat at the table, uneasy. like a storm had entered the house, even though the weather outside was still. June turned to him. "You're worried." He didn't deny it. He almost fell. Samuel chuckled weakly. "Old doors creak. Doesn't mean they're ready to fall off." Lucas frowned. "You don't have to pretend." The old man leaned back, studying him for a long moment. "Son, you can't protect people from time." "I'm not trying to protect you from time," Lucas replied quietly. "I just don't want to lose anyone else." Silence settled heavy and real. June's eyes softened, not with pity, but with understanding. "You loved deeply," she whispered. "Love doesn't leave scars. It leaves space, aching until filled again." Tommy sat quietly in a corner, turning pages of a worn book, pretending not to listen. But Lucas knew he heard every word. Kids always hear the things adults try to hide. After dinner, Samuel settled in his chair by the fire. June covered him with a blanket, her hand lingering on his shoulder a moment longer than usual. Lucas stepped outside to breathe. The night sky stretched wide and full of stars, clear, cold, infinite. He used to stare at city skylines like they could answer pain. But here, the stars didn't pretend to fix anything. They simply reminded him life was bigger than suffering and smaller than pride. Footsteps shuffled behind him. Tommy emerged, hugging a coat around his tiny frame. "Is Mr. Samuel sick?" Lucas swallowed. "He's tired. Strong men get tired too." Tommy nodded like he was memorizing the lesson. "You gonna stay?" The question landed unexpectedly. Stay meant choosing something, not running, not escaping, not hiding. Lucas looked back at the farmhouse, warm windows glowing, shadows moving inside, a place built on patience, faith, and worn hands. Winter arrived like a quiet judge, not violently, but with certainty. Frost thickened, wind carried the smell of snow, and the barn frame now stood tall against the pale horizon. What started as scattered boards had become structure ribs of a future shelter, bones of hope. Lucas stood beneath the beams at sunrise, breath turning to mist. His hammer hung at his side, not idle, but resting, like him. Every muscle ached, yet he felt stronger than ever, not just in body, but in spirit. Inside the farmhouse, he heard June moving softly, kettle whistling, pages turning in her worn Bible. Samuel had slept later than usual. Age and winter made peace together in his bones. But Lucas didn't panic this time. Fear no longer led him, responsibility did. Tommy arrived, bundled in a coat too big for him, mittens hanging by strings. His cheeks pink, his grin unstoppable. "Snow's comin'," he announced like a town crier. "Mom says storms build character." Lucas smiled faintly. "She sounds like Samuel." Tommy shrugged. "Grown-ups, like lessons." Then his voice lowered. "Lessons mean someone cares." That truth rested warm in the cold. They began bracing the frame for winter tarping lumber, securing beams, organizing tools. Work that wasn't glamorous, but mattered. The kind of work Lucas once paid others to think about. Now he understood. Care is built in the invisible tasks. Samuel joined them midday, slower but determined. He supervised, offered quiet advice, corrected technique with a gentle tap on the wrist or nod of approval. His presence didn't just guide, it steadied. At lunch, they gathered around the small kitchen table. June placed stew before them, steam curling like prayer. Samuel bowed his head, and Lucas followed instinctively. Not habit, not obligation, choice. When they ate, Samuel spoke, voice thin but steady. "Life tests men two ways," he said. "By giving everything, then by talking it. Lucas felt those words settle inside him like weight and light at once. Samuel looked at him, truly looked. You've been broken. But broken soil grows the strongest crops. Lucas didn't hide from the sting. I still miss them every day. You should, Samuel replied. Grief's not the enemy. Forgetting is. Snowflakes drifted outside, the first soft messengers of the storm. The world slowed, quieted, breathed. For the first time since tragedy stole his life's center. Lucas didn't feel like a man running from ghosts. He felt like a man walking toward a life. One he was building with his own scarred hands. One nail and one dawn at a time. Work would pause for weather, but growth wouldn't. Healing didn't ask seasons for permission. Lucas looked out into the white-dusted fields and whispered, not to the past, but to the future slowly waking in him. I'm ready. By evening, snow thickened into a gentle curtain. Each flake settled on the unfinished barn, like nature blessing what hands had begun. Lights glowed warm from the farmhouse windows, cutting golden shapes into the blue twilight. Inside, the house hummed with quiet life. June folded blankets near the fireplace. Tommy sat cross-legged, sounding out words from a worn book, brow furrowed in deep concentration. Lucas leaned beside him, guiding gently when letters tangled on the boy's tongue. PH, Faith, Tommy whispered, victory lighting his face. Lucas nodded. Faith means believing without seeing, right? Tommy asked. Lucas breathed out slowly. Yes, and sometimes holding on when you want to let go. Tommy nodded, as if filing the sentence away for some future storm in his own life. Samuel rested in his chair, eyes closed, breathing slow but peaceful. Lucas watched the rise and fall of his chest, small, steady miracles. Not the loud ones life sometimes gives, but the quiet ones it expects you to notice. Later, Lucas stepped outside for wood. Snow muffled every sound. The world felt holy in its stillness. When he returned, Samuel stirred. Boy, he murmured softly, eyes opening, come here. Lucas knelt beside him, heart tightening. There was no fear this time, only gratitude and the trembling edge of emotion that comes when a man realizes he is no longer empty and is terrified to lose it. Samuel rested a weathered hand on his arm. You came here lost. Lucas swallowed. I was, and you stayed. That's what makes a man, not running when hurt. Lucas blinked hard. I didn't save myself alone. A tired smile touched the old man's lips. No one does. God builds with many hands. Silence rested between them, full, not empty. Then Samuel whispered, when spring comes, finish that barn. Fill it with life. And don't forget, healing ain't a moment. It's a road. I won't forget, Lucas promised. I'll build it. And I'll stay. Outside, wind brushed snow against the windows like soft applause from heaven. June placed a loving hand on her husband's shoulder. Her eyes met Lucas's full of pride, grief, thankfulness, all braided into one eternal thing called love. Tommy crawled into Lucas's side, small and warm, trusting him without question. Family was no longer a memory. It was here, humble, imperfect, alive. Lucas looked around, a boy learning to read, a woman of quiet strength, an aging mentor who turned a broken man into a living one again. The ache inside him didn't vanish, but it no longer hollowed him. It shaped him. Tomorrow would bring snow, and work would wait. But spring would come. And when it did, the barn would rise, not just from wood and nails, but from patience, sorrow, hope, and the stubborn miracle of choosing to stay. Lucas whispered into the warm air, voice steady as the hearth fire. The plains around Coleman Briggs Ranch stretched endless and silent, touched only by the morning wind whispering through tall grass. For years, Coleman had lived here alone, a man carved by solitude and the fierce honesty of the land. Routine guided his days, tending horses, repairing fences, and keeping watch over the horizon like a soldier guarding a forgotten frontier. It was this watchful habit that made him notice the small figure stumbling through the dust. At first, it looked like a mirage, a boy, torn clothes hanging from his thin frame, dirt and blood smeared across his face. His steps were unsteady, desperate. Coleman felt instinct prick at him before logic had the chance to speak. Someone was running for their life. He set his rifle down, stepping forward. "That's close enough, son." The boy collapsed to his knees, breath shaking, eyes full of fear far older than his years. "Sir, please, help." His voice cracked, raw and thin. "They're coming. They killed my mama. They burned our home." Coleman knelt, steady hands lifting the boy's face. Beneath the grime, the child couldn't have been more than 10. "Slow down. Who's coming?" "Riders," the boy whispered, trembling. "Mean men. They thought we stole something." Mama hid my sister Lizzie in the woods. Tears cut clean streaks on his cheeks. "Please, hide her. Don't let them take her." Coleman exhaled, jaw tightening. The West had never been gentle, but harming children. That was the mark of wolves, not men. He stood slowly, a quiet oath forming in his chest. Protect the helpless, no matter the price. "What's your name, boy?" "Ethan," he answered, voice shaking. "All right, Ethan, we'll get your sister. Nobody's taking you to—" But Ethan's head snapped up, panic rising again. "No. If they see me gone, they'll know she's safe. I just had to find someone brave." His small fists clenched. "Don't let them hurt her." Coleman stared, struck by the boy's courage and desperation. A child asking a stranger to risk everything, because the world had given him no other choice. He grabbed his rifle, checked his belt for ammo. "Point the way." They moved quickly across dry grass and scattered pines. Soon they found her Lizzie, tiny and trembling behind a fallen log, eyes wide like a deer cornered by wolves. Ethan rushed to her, holding her tight. Coleman felt a sting in his chest, a reminder of a life long gone. Before solitude became armor, he lifted Lizzie gently, guiding both children back toward the ranch. But even before they reached the fence line, the sharp echo of distant hoofbeats rolled across the plains. Dust rose on the horizon, riders approaching fast. Coleman didn't look frightened. He looked ready. The peace of his lonely life had been shattered, but his purpose had never been clearer. The sun dipped low as evening shadows stretched across Coleman Briggs Ranch. The wind had changed, carrying with it the faint drumbeat of hooves far beyond the horizon. Trouble was coming, and Coleman knew it. Inside the barn, a lantern's glow cast long, restless shadows. Ethan sat on an overturned bucket, clutching a cup of water with both trembling hands. Coleman cleaned his rifle with calm, practiced movements. There was silence, the kind that presses on the chest and forces the truth out. "They'll come tonight," Coleman said finally. "No fear, just certainty." Ethan swallowed hard. "They don't stop. If they don't find us, they'll burn everything just like before." Coleman set the rifle aside and crouched in front of the boy. "Listen to me. Fear only wins if you let it make your choices. Tonight, you let me make the choices." Ethan nodded, trying to be brave. But his eyes betrayed him. He had seen death, and too young. Coleman moved across the barn, lifting floorboards to reveal a hidden cellar stocked with food, water, and supplies. You and your sister will stay here when they arrive. You don't come out unless I say so. The boy hesitated. What if they hurt you? Coleman gave a faint, weary smile, the kind only men who have lived hard years wear. Then you run. But as long as I'm standing, no one touches you. They carried Lizzie into the cellar. She clung to Ethan, silent and wide-eyed. Coleman lowered a blanket around them, placing a lantern and canteen within reach. Their tiny figures in the dark space tugged at something deep inside him, memories he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. Before closing the hatch, Ethan whispered, "Sir, you don't have to do this." Coleman paused. "Yes, I do. Sometimes a man doesn't choose the fight. It comes to his door." Outside, the first stars appeared as night settled heavy over the plains. Coleman secured the barn and loaded spare shells into his belt. He walked the perimeter, setting tripwires, placing lanterns, positioning barrels and tools as improvised barricades. No wasted movement, no hesitation. He paused on the porch, staring into the darkening fields. Then he whispered to the wind, as if speaking to ghosts, "If you're coming, come honest." And somewhere far away, faint but undeniable hooves answered. Night wrapped itself around the ranch like a shroud, heavy and watchful. Coleman Briggs stood on the porch, sharpening his knife in slow, deliberate strokes. Each scrape of steel echoed in the stillness, a quiet promise that he would not go quietly into fear. The lantern beside him burned steady, one small flame holding back the darkness. Beneath the barn, Ethan and Lizzie clung to each other in the cellar. The thick wood muffled sound, but every distant creak, every thud from above, carried weight. Lizzie's whisper trembled in the dark. Will he beat them? Ethan swallowed, glancing up toward the hatch as if he could see the cowboy through solid boards. He's strong, he answered, voice soft but determined. And brave. He wanted to believe that. Needed to. Above, Coleman loaded spare cartridges into his belt pouch, then checked every window and door again. He had defended land before wolves, thieves, storms, but this was different. This time, 2 small lives rested on his decisions. Solitude had shaped him, but duty now defined him. Outside, the wind shifted. Dust lifted faintly, whispering through the grass. Then, far on the horizon, a faint orange shimmer torchlight. Coleman exhaled through his nose, slow, steady, almost peaceful. The waiting was over. He climbed to the barn loft higher ground, better aim. From there, he could see the figures approaching, growing clearer with every heartbeat. Riders 5, maybe more behind them, armed, confident, predators moving in a pack. For a moment, silence. Even insects seemed to hush, as though nature itself bowed to the danger closing in. Then came the first shout, a sharp, commanding call. The riders emerged fully into view, horses snorting, dust swirling around them. They stopped at the edge of the yard, torches flickering like restless fire spirits. Coleman leaned on the railing, rifle steady. "Evening," he called. His voice was calm, a man welcoming company rather than death. One rider advanced, broad-shouldered, arrogant, certain of power. "We're looking for 2 brats," he growled. "Hand him over and we don't turn your land into ash." Coleman's eyes narrowed, jaw tightening just a fraction. This ranch won't be token orders from cowards tonight. A low rumble of anger rolled through the men. They expected fear. They met steel instead. "You're outnumbered," the leader spat. Coleman's tone never broke. "I've seen worse odds. And worse men." A tense breath. A twitch of fingers near a holster. Then, a shot cracked the night. Splinters burst from the railing beside Coleman's arm. The riders had chosen violence. Coleman answered in kind, a single, thunderous shot that punched the torch from the lead rider's hand and sent embers exploding into the dark. Horses reared, men cursed. "Boys," Coleman murmured, voice low and dangerous. "You crossed a line you won't walk back from." The war for the ranch had begun, and he intended to finish it. Chaos erupted the moment Coleman's bullet shattered the torch. Horses reared, shadows twisted. Men shouted. The quiet ranch transformed into a battlefield in a heartbeat. Coleman stayed low in the loft, calm in the storm. Patience was his weapon as much as steel. He counted footsteps, watched movement, waited for desperation to push them into mistakes. The riders scrambled, trying to locate him in the dark. Another torch flared to life below, casting jagged orange across their faces, anger, frustration, fear hidden behind bravado. One man raised his rifle. Too slow. Coleman fired again, a clean, cold shot. Wood exploded behind the rider as the bullet grazed his shoulder, spinning him out of the saddle. He hit the dirt hard, screaming. Panic rippled through the group. The leader barked orders, but men don't listen to commands when shadows bite back. They began circling, looking for openings, trying to flush him out. Inside the cellar, Ethan flinched at every gunshot. Lizzie held her hands over her ears, eyes squeezed shut. Dust fell with each impact as bullets struck wood above them. "Stay still," Ethan whispered, voice shaking. "He said he'd protect us." Lizzie whispered back, voice tiny but fierce. "He always keeps his word." Up in the loft, Coleman inhaled, slow and deep. His heart beat steady, one of the few things in this world he could still control. He shifted positions quietly, never firing from the same angle twice. A lantern below shattered as a bullet hit it, flames licking hay before Coleman kicked dirt down to smother it. One spark, and everything would become hellfire, including the children below. "Come out, old man," a rider shouted, voice cracked with tension. "Ain't worth dying for thieves." Coleman's answer cut through the dark like a blade. "They're just children. What does that make you?" Silence. Then another volley of gunfire, wild, angry, desperate. Bullets punched holes through the boards. One whistled past Coleman's hat, slicing the brim. He didn't flinch. Down below, the wounded rider crawled toward his horse, groaning. Without hesitation, the leader kicked him aside and took cover behind a trough. To him, loyalty was weakness. Fear was currency. Coleman watched the cruelty and felt an old familiar fire, not rage, but resolve. He had seen men like this before. Once they took innocence, they never stopped. "Get ready to burn him out," someone yelled. Coleman's breath caught. Fire, that was their plan all along. He braced himself, knowing the night had only begun. And in that moment, under a sky dense with stars and gun smoke, he swore to himself, if these riders wanted a war, they would learn what war truly meant. The first whiff of kerosene hit the air, sharp, oily, unmistakable. Torchlight flickered as two riders dismounted, sloshing fuel across dry hay and porch boards. Coleman's jaw tightened. Fire meant death. Not just for him, for the children. He fired, taking down a torch and sending one man stumbling back. Flames sputtered in the dirt. "Ain't no flames on this land tonight," he growled. The riders panicked, ducking and scrambling for cover. The leaders snarled orders, but their confidence had already bled into the dust. Inside the cellar, smoke seeped through the cracks. Ethan covered Lizzie with his jacket, trying to calm her trembling. "He's fighting for us," he whispered, as much to himself as to her. Above, Coleman rolled to the opposite window and fired. Again, a clean shot that shattered another lantern. Sparks sprayed across dirt and wood, but nothing caught. He whispered a silent prayer, not for victory, but for time. A rider crept toward the barn, revolver raised. Coleman spotted the glint of metal and fired once more, dropping him into the dirt. The night swallowed his scream. Only then did Coleman pause, chest rising slow, listening. The wind shifted. Horses snorted nervously. The attackers' breaths rattled in the dark. "You can't win," the leader shouted, voice cracking like brittle pride. "One man don't stop justice." Coleman's reply was cold iron. "You're not justice. You're fear wrapped in a badge." He moved again, silent, methodical. This wasn't rage. It was duty. Below, a rider suddenly charged toward the house with a torch. Coleman fired, missed by inches, and the man sprinted behind the well. The torch hit the porch edge, sparks jumping like angry insects. Coleman cursed under his breath, sliding down the ladder. He burst out the barn door, fired point-blank at the burning wood, killing the flame before it grew. Heat singed his sleeve. Smoke curled around him. A bullet cracked past his head. Another. He dove behind a trough as dust exploded around him. They had repositioned. They were learning. "You're gonna die for nothing," the leader roared. Coleman steadied his breathing, thumb running along the worn stock of his rifle. If a man don't stand for something, he dies already. The riders regrouped. Someone whistled to signal a flank. Coleman stood slowly, shoulders straight, despite the chaos. He knew the night would break soon, one way or another. Gunsmoke curled in the moonlight. Horses pawed the dirt. 2 innocent children hid beneath the floorboards. And Coleman Briggs, a man who once believed he had nothing left, braced for the next storm. The night sky shimmered with smoke as the battle dragged on. Coleman wiped sweat and ash from his brow, breath steady despite the chaos. The riders had regrouped, angrier, louder, more reckless. They weren't just hunting children now. They wanted revenge for pride wounded by one stubborn man. A sudden burst of shouting snapped through the dark. 2 riders broke from cover, sprinting toward the barn with torches blazing. Flames licked the air as they hurled them onto dry hay. Fire erupted, hungry and fast. Coleman didn't hesitate. He charged from behind the trough. Rifle firing once, a torch hit the dirt, dying in sparks. Second shot, the first rider staggered backward, clutching his chest. The other fled, throwing another torch into the barn before disappearing behind the corral. Flames climbed the barn wall. Hay popped and snapped, rising into crackling embers. Heat pushed against Coleman's face as he rushed forward, grabbing buckets and dousing water where he could. But the fire fought back, spreading with cruel speed. Inside the cellar, Ethan covered Lizzie's ears as the roar grew louder. "The barn's burning," he whispered, heart pounding. "He's still out there." Lizzie clung tighter, eyes wide and shining with fear. "He won't leave us." Above them, sparks drifted like fiery snow as Coleman dragged tarp and soil to smother burning edges. He coughed, waving smoke from his eyes. If the barn fully ignited, the tunnel entrance below could fill with heat, or worse, collapse. The riders regrouped near the fence, watching with twisted satisfaction. One laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "Let him burn. He ain't stopping us." Coleman heard it. He turned, eyes like steel under the glow. "I don't burn easy." He fired, hitting the man square in the leg. The laughter choked into a scream. Chaos rippled again. the riders scattering in panic. Fear had returned, and this time it felt real. Coleman ducked behind the trough, lungs burning. He'd bought a moment, nothing more. The barn still burned, stubborn and wild. Smoke drifted toward the house, toward the cellar. He couldn't let it reach them. He pulled a shovel and beat back flames like a man fighting the devil himself. Every strike was desperation mixed with duty. Sparks landed on his coat. Sweat stung his eyes. But he did not yield. The barn roared, alive with fire and fury. Horses cried from their stalls, kicking at doors. Coleman's heart clenched, but he had to choose. Save the horses or save the children. Duty decided for him. He backed away, chest heaving. Flames filled the sky, lighting the ranch like a hellish dawn. "Hold on," he whispered toward the cellar. "I'm not done yet." And as the barn timbers groaned and cracked, the riders prepared their next move, knowing the fire had tilted fate in their favor. But Coleman Briggs wasn't broken. Not yet. The barn collapsed in a shower of sparks, sending a thunderous boom across the land. For a heartbeat, everything stilled. Even the riders paused to watch the inferno fall. Smoke billowed upward, blotting out stars. Embers drifted like dying fireflies across the yard. Coleman stood near the porch, rifle in hand, jaw clenched. Loss burned in his chest, but grief had no space here. The barn was gone, but the children were not. That was what mattered. A rider whistled sharply, signaling movement. Two figures moved along the fence line, crouched low, rifles ready. They aimed not at Coleman, but at the cellar hatch. His heart iced over. They'd figured it out. He sprinted toward the house, firing mid. One bullet struck the ground near the riders, forcing them to dive behind the woodpile. Another shot zipped past Coleman, grazing his sleeve. He slid behind a wagon wheel, sucking air through his teeth. "You're protecting ghosts, old man." The lead rider taunted, "Those kids ain't worth dying for." Coleman fired back, not a bullet this time, but words like iron. Every life's worth fighting for, especially the ones who can't fight yet. The riders answered with lead. Bullets thudded into the wagon, splintering spokes. Coleman reloaded, fingers quick and sure, despite the smoke and sweat. He moved to a rain barrel, then to the porch post. Never still. Never easy to target. Inside the cellar, Ethan pressed his ear to the wood. Gunshots echoed above like thunder trapped in walls. He whispered shakily, "He's right above us." Lizzie gripped his hand, tears streaking her soot-smudged cheeks. "He won't let them take us." Outside, torchlight flickered again as a rider crawled closer to the house carrying kerosene. Coleman fired, hit the lantern instead. It exploded in bright sparks, forcing the man back with a yelp. "You learn slow," Coleman muttered. He moved again, body aching, lungs raw. The yard was smoke and fire and shadows. A battleground built from survival and grit. But he was tiring. Every breath felt heavier. Every reload slower. He leaned against the porch rail, gathering strength. He had one mission left: keep them away from that cellar. The leader's voice rose over the chaos, sharp and venomous. "We end him now. Then we take the kids." Coleman lifted his head, eyes blazing through soot. "Try me." Hooves thundered. Shadows charged. He braced himself, teeth gritted, rifle steady. This wasn't just a fight for land anymore. It was a fight for promise, for redemption, for every lost piece of himself he saw in those children. The riders came. Coleman faced them, and the night held its breath once more. The thunder of hooves shook the ground as the riders charged. Coleman stood on the porch, feet planted. rifle braced against his shoulder like it was carved there. He did not blink, did not breathe. He aimed with the patience of a man who had lived long enough to know each shot mattered more than the next breath. The first rider broke ahead of the others, pistol raised. Coleman fired one clean shot. The man fell like a stone, horse stumbling and veering off. Dust exploded. Shouts followed. A second rider rushed in, swinging around the well to flank him. Coleman saw the movement, fired again. Missed by inches, but close enough to force the man low behind the trough. Bullets answered, splintering wood around Coleman's shoulders. He dropped behind a post, breath harsh, muscles tight. His ribs burned with fatigue, but he pushed himself upright again. No rest here, no room to falter. Inside the cellar, the children felt each vibration through the earth. Ethan clenched his fists, whispering, "Hold on, hold on." Lizzie leaned against him, eyes wide, silent prayer behind them. Above, Coleman rolled across the porch boards, snatching the pistol from his belt. One rider tried to climb the porch rail. Coleman fired point blank. The man tumbled back, hitting dirt hard. There were fewer now, but desperation makes men dangerous. The leader roared from behind the corral, voice sharp like broken glass. "You die tonight, Briggs." Coleman wiped grime from his brow, voice low and steady. "You keep saying that." "Still waitin'." He ducked as another bullet screamed past, tearing a chunk from the wall. Smoke drifted across the yard, heat pressing in. Barn embers still glowing behind him like ghosts. Then quiet. A pause in gunfire. A shift in wind. The kind of silence that feels like a held breath before the storm breaks again. Coleman peered over the railing. The riders weren't retreating. They were spreading out, surrounding, cornering. Him like wolves moving in slow, hungry arcs. He exhaled. All right, he dropped empty shells. Loaded again, hands working by instinct. Not thought. If it's wolves, you want to be. He stepped forward into the open yard, rifle raised, spine straight. Then you hunt me face to face. No fear, only resolve, stubborn as the land beneath his boots. The riders blinked, taken aback. They did not expect a man alone to step into death willingly. Then one yelled anger or panic. It didn't matter. It triggered the next moment. Gunfire erupted. Coleman dove, rolled behind a barrel, firing mid. His shoulders screamed, his legs heavy, but his aim stayed true. A horse reared, a rider fell. Dust clouded the air, turning shapes into ghosts. He felt the world tighten around him, danger in every shadow, injustice in every bullet. But he was still standing. And as long as he stood, they would not pass. Coleman pressed his back against the water barrel, chest heaving, hands trembling around the rifle stock. Sweat and smoke stung his eyes. He forced focus. Listening, footsteps, hooves, the faint crackle of dying flames. The battle was shifting. He could feel it in his bones. Two riders sprinted low along the fence, trying to sneak behind the porch. Coleman leaned out, fired. One man dropped, clutching his arm. The other dove behind stacked crates. Return fire ripped into the dirt near Coleman's boots, showering him with grit. His rifle clicked, empty. Breath sharp, he ducked behind the barrel, yanking rounds from his belt. His hands shook. Not fear, exhaustion, pure and heavy. He had been fighting alone for too long, bleeding strength, one breath at a time. A shout tore the night. The leader emerged from the shadows, a cruel grin cutting across his face like a scar. "You're done, Briggs. Ain't a man alive can keep standing this long." Coleman shoved fresh rounds into the chamber, jaw set. Funny thing, He snapped the bolt shut. "I ain't dead yet." He stood, shot, ducked, moved again, relentless as a storm. Bullets sparked off the porch rails, tearing chips from the walls. One grazed his arm. Another tore the hat clean from his head. He didn't flinch, didn't give them the satisfaction. But the riders pressed harder. They were closing in, 3 left. Moving with coordinated cruelty, pushing him toward collapse. Desperation made them bold. It also made them reckless. One rider rushed him with a knife, teeth bare. Coleman caught him with the butt of the rifle, dropping him like a sack. But another bullet clipped Coleman's shoulder, spinning him into the dirt. Pain flared white. He gritted his teeth, forcing himself up, rifle shaky in his grasp. Inside the cellar, Ethan gasped. "He's hurt." Lizzie grabbed his hand, whisper fierce. "He's still fighting." Outside, Coleman staggered behind the wagon, breath ragged. Blood warmed his sleeve. The world felt heavier, the air thicker. He knelt, forcing clarity into his lungs. The leader stepped into view, revolver aimed steady. End of the line. Coleman wiped his mouth, smearing blood and dust. "Ain't my line." He fired first. The leader jerked aside, bullet grazing his jacket. He cursed, ducking behind a post. Coleman dropped low, coughing, vision dimming from smoke and fatigue. The ranch felt like a graveyard of embers and echoes. Still, he rose again, because giving up meant handing the children to wolves. And Coleman Briggs had made a promise. The riders circled one last time, 3 shadows closing in. Sarah's face flashed in his memory. Soft voice, warm smile. Protect them. That was always her wish. He whispered, "I know." He lifted the rifle, no hesitation, no surrender left in him. 1 man against 3. But he'd already decided. He would fall only after they did. And the night braced for the final strike. The night was nearly gone, but the battle still raged. Smoke settled low across the ranch like a ghost, carrying the smell of fire and gunpowder. Coleman knelt beside the wagon wheel, pressing a hand to his bleeding shoulder. His breath came shallow, muscles trembling. His body demanded rest. But his duty refused it. Only 3 riders remained, and they were done playing games. The leader barked orders, voice raw. "Push him." Both sides. Boots scraped dirt as his men spread out, closing in like wolves circling a wounded buck. There was no hiding now, no tricks left. Just grit versus violence. Coleman lifted his rifle again, vision blurry but will unbroken. If he had 1 bullet left in his soul, he'd make it count. A rider burst from the right, pistol raised. Coleman fired a clean hit to the chest. The man dropped, dust swallowing him whole. 2 left. Gunfire cracked in return. Wood splintered around Coleman, a bullet grazing his ribs. He winced, teeth clenched, but stayed up on 1 knee. Pain was background now, mission louder than wounds. The second rider charged straight in, reckless rage replacing strategy. Coleman barely had time to raise his rifle. The man slammed into him, knocking him hard to the ground. The rifle skidded away. Fists flew, boots kicked. Coleman rolled, taking blows meant to kill. Then, instinct. He reached for his boot, pulled his knife, and struck. The rider gasped, stumbled back. Coleman shoved him off, chest heaving. The man crawled, blood staining earth. He wouldn't be getting up again. Coleman rose slowly, unsteady but iron-willed. Only 1 enemy remained, the leader. Silence fell. Smoke drifted. Moonlight carved to worn figures in dust. The leader stepped out, face twisted with hate, revolver leveled. "You cost me men. You cost me time." Now I take what's mine." Coleman wiped blood from his lip, voice steady. "Not tonight." The man cocked the hammer. "You think you're a hero? You're just one old fool with nothing left." Coleman's eyes burned like embers. "I got enough." The leader charged forward, gun aimed at Coleman's head. Time slowed, dust suspended, breath frozen. A shot rang out, but not his. The bullet punched into the leader's arm. He staggered, gun flying into dirt. Coleman turned in shock. Ethan stood on the porch, hands shaking around a pistol far too big for him, eyes bright with terror and courage. "Leave him alone," the boy shouted. For the first time that night, the leader looked afraid. And Coleman knew this fight wasn't over, but it was about to end. The leader clutched his arm, shock replaced by fury. "You little," he lunged toward Ethan. Coleman acted before thought. Pain shot through every bone as he sprinted, slamming into the man with everything left in him. They crashed to the ground, wrestling in dirt and blood. The leader clawed for his fallen revolver, fingers inches away. Coleman grabbed him, voice raw. "No more." They struggled, strength against desperation. Then Coleman drove his fist forward with the last of his power. The leader went limp, collapsing beside him in the dust. Silence, real silence. Only wind, only crackling embers from the barn's remains. Coleman breathed long, deep, disbelieving. The nightmare had ended. He pushed himself up slowly. Ethan rushed to him, tears streaking his dusty face. Lizzie followed, clinging to her brother's arm. You're alive," Ethan whispered. Coleman smiled faintly, tired but warm. "Told you I don't fall easy." Lizzie wrapped her arms around his waist. He froze, unused to gentle things, then placed a trembling hand on her back. Family didn't always come by blood. Sometimes it arrived by fire and choice. But victory had cost more than bullets. The ranch, his world, lay half-burned, fences broken, barn gone. Echoes of battle clung to every board and stone. "We can't stay," Coleman said quietly. "Others may come." Ethan nodded, brave again. "Where do we go?" Coleman looked toward the hills where dawn crept in, painting gold across ruin. Somewhere quiet, somewhere new. They gathered what little they could: food, blankets, memories wrapped in dust. Behind the house, hidden by brush, Coleman revealed a tunnel door leading into the earth. Built it years back. Never figured I'd use it to leave for good. Ethan stared. "It's like starting over." Coleman rested a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. "Not starting over. There's a difference." One last glance back, porch scarred, land scorched, ghosts settling into ash. Loss, yes, but also proof of what stood firm. He whispered, barely audible, "Thank you, Sarah. I kept my word." With Lizzie's hand in his left and Ethan walking beside him on the right, Coleman stepped into the tunnel and into the unknown. They emerged hours later into wild open plains touched by morning light. No bullets, no fire, just wind, sky, and hope. Coleman exhaled the first peaceful breath in years. "All right, kids. Let's build something worth living for." They walked on, three souls bound not by fear, but by choice, toward a future carved from courage and dawn. The cowboy did not hide. He stood. He fought. And in fighting, he found something worth living for. Caleb Holt had lived alone on the windswept prairies for so long that even the hills seemed to whisper his name in loneliness. His ranch stretched farther than his own hopes ever dared. And each sunset fell not with warmth, but with the heavy reminder that silence was his truest companion. His life was simple: rise before dawn, feed the cattle, patch fences, fight the endless battle against dust and time. But days blurred into years, and somewhere between winter storms and dry summers, his heart learned to ache quietly. He was tired of cooking for one, speaking to no one but his old mule, and watching neighbors go home to warm kitchens where laughter lived. Caleb was gentle-voiced, lean, and soft-mouthed, a man who fixed broken wagon wheels better than he looked people in the eye. Folks said he had good hands, but not enough presence. A kind heart, but not the commanding sort a frontierman was meant to be. And though he worked harder than any man for miles, he still sometimes felt small in a world that rewarded loudness and force. So he did something bold, something desperate, maybe. He placed an advertisement in a far-off newspaper. Rancher seeks companion for a life of mutual respect, honest work, and shared shelter. Gentle disposition will provide home and partnership. He prayed someone kind would answer. Someone soft, someone tender. Someone who might look at him and not see what he lacked, but what he could offer. Weeks passed. Then one crisp morning, a single envelope arrived. Neat handwriting, feminine, hopeful. Her name was Marion Hale. She wrote of hard winters, quiet dreams, and a heart weary from solitude. She wished for a place to belong, for a man who valued gentleness and loyalty more than grand gestures. Caleb's chest ached reading her words. She sounded perfect, gentle, delicate, exactly the vision he had held like a secret flame. So he invited her to come. And as he stood by the wagon stop on the day of her arrival, hat nervously twisting in his hands, he imagined a small girl stepping down. Frail maybe, soft-voiced. Instead, the wagon stopped. The door opened, and the woman who stepped down was not what Caleb expected. Tall, broad-shouldered, sun-toughened, eyes sharp as prairie wind. His breath froze. This was Marion Hale. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Dust swirled lazily in the air. The horses snorted. And Caleb stood rooted to the ground, as if the earth itself refused to release him. The woman before him was not the delicate flower he had pictured. She stood taller than most men in town, her shoulders broad beneath a worn traveling coat, her stance firm as a rooted oak. Her gaze held calm strength, not fierce, not intimidating, just unshakable. She lifted her trunk with one hand, as though it weighed nothing more than a loaf of bread. Murmurs rippled through the gathered townsfolk. Caleb swallowed hard, heat climbing his neck. This was Marion, the woman whose letters spoke of quiet gardens and gentle evenings. She turned toward him, her features softening when she saw his nervous expression. "Mr. Holt?" she asked, voice low yet warm, carrying calm confidence. "I hope I did not keep you waiting." Caleb tried to answer, but his tongue clung awkwardly to the roof of his mouth. He managed a stiff nod. "No, ma'am. I mean, yes. I mean, I'm glad you're here." His voice cracked like a dry fence post. Her expression flickered, understanding, not judgment. She offered a polite smile. "The journey was long, but I am grateful to be here." Grateful he hadn't expected that word to sting. She did not look like someone who needed a quiet life to feel safe. She looked like someone born to carve her place in the world, not requested through ink and hope. Caleb felt small beside her, a whisper against a storm. Yet, as he guided her toward his wagon, he noticed her soft touches, the way she paused to thank the driver, the gentle pat she gave the horse's neck, her quiet admiration of the open land stretching beyond the town. There was tenderness there, just wrapped in strength, not fragility. He lifted her trunk to place it in the wagon bed, or rather, attempted to. The weight pulled him sideways, boots scraping dirt. Before he could fall, her hand steadied him. Firm, steady, respectful. Not mocking, not proud, just offering balance. "I can take it," she said gently, and lifted the trunk herself. Caleb's pride smarted, but her tone held no superiority, only kindness. As they climbed into the wagon, Caleb glanced at her hands. Calloused, capable, these were hands that had worked, suffered, endured. She had not come to be sheltered. She had come to share a life, not hide from one. And suddenly, he felt unprepared for the kind of life she expected him to offer. The wagon rolled across the prairie, wheels humming against dry earth. Caleb kept his eyes on the trail, though his thoughts tangled like barbed wire. Every few moments, he'd glance sideways, stealing uncertain looks at the woman beside him. Marion sat upright, her posture steady, her gaze roaming across the vast expanse like she was measuring it, learning it, claiming it quietly. Not with arrogance, but with a survivor's instinct. She took in every detail: the hills, the distant cattle, the faint line of the river glittering under the sun. Finally, she spoke. "It's beautiful," she murmured. "Wide, untamed. A place where a person can breathe." Caleb blinked. "Most folks find it lonely out here." "Loneliness isn't the land," she answered softly. "It's the life one lives on it." She looked toward the horizon, her voice low. "Sometimes empty places feel kinder than crowded ones." Her words stirred something inside him, an echo of his own buried ache. Perhaps solitude was not an enemy she feared, but an old companion she already knew too well. A gust of wind lifted a strand of her hair, and she tucked it behind her ear. A surprisingly delicate motion for hands that carried trunks like sacks of grain. Caleb's chest tightened. She was not a contradiction. She was a truth he'd never considered. Strength and softness could live in the same person. Still, doubt gnawed at him. Would she be disappointed? He imagined her expecting a bold frontier hero, a man with broad shoulders and booming voice. Instead, she had him plain, quiet, uncertain him. "Miss Marion," he said at last, voice barely steady. "I hope the reality of this place doesn't fall short of what you imagined." She studied him, not with judgment, but curiosity. "I did not come here for fantasy, Mr. Holt. I came for something real." A pause. "And please, call me Marion." He nodded, then cleared his throat nervously. "Caleb, then?" Her smile appeared small, sincere. "Caleb." His name sounded different from her lips, grounded, acknowledged. For the first time since she stepped off that wagon, something inside him loosened. The knot of fear pulled just slightly apart. The ranch finally appeared in the distance, weathered fences, a humble house, cattle grazing beneath a wide sky. Caleb's heart hammered. This place held his whole life, his hopes, his insecurities, his quiet dreams. Bringing someone into it felt like bearing his soul. As they approached, Marion leaned forward, eyes bright with interest, not disappointment. "It's peaceful," she said. "A home built by steady hands." Caleb exhaled, not relief, exactly, but something close. Maybe she didn't see what he lacked. Maybe she saw what he had tried so hard to build. And maybe, just maybe, this beginning wasn't a mistake. It was simply different than he expected. Different didn't always mean wrong. Morning light spilled across the ranch like brushed gold, stretching long shadows from fence posts and wind-worn boards. Caleb woke before it fully settled on the horizon, nerves prickling beneath his skin. Today wasn't ordinary. It was the first full day. With Marion here, the first day someone else breathed the ranch air with him, shared the silence, stepped through his world. He dressed with clumsy fingers, splashed his face with cold water, and reminded himself to breathe. What kind of man was he supposed to be now? Confident, strong, capable in every direction. He wasn't sure, but he knew one thing. He didn't want to disappoint her. When he stepped outside, he found Marion already awake, sleeves rolled up, examining the corral fence. A loose board hung at an odd angle, something Caleb had meant to fix for weeks, but never found the right hour, the right energy. "You're up early," he said. She turned, sunlight catching the dust in her hair like flecks of copper. "Habit. There's always work to tend before the world wakes." Her tone wasn't smug, it was matter-of-fact, almost gentle. But Caleb still felt a pinch in his chest. She was strong, prepared, capable. He was still rubbing sleep from his eyes. "I'll get tools," he muttered. Together, they approached the shed. Marion didn't wait. She lifted the fence plank, balancing it easily while Caleb fumbled for nails and a hammer. Her strength wasn't loud. It simply existed, steady and undeniable. And despite the heat flushing his face, he felt a strange calm settle too. Like her presence filled the spaces life had worn thin inside him. "You don't have to do heavy work," he said as he hammered, voice soft. She held the plank without straining. "Work isn't heavy when it has purpose." He paused mid-swing, studying her. She wasn't here to embarrass him or overshadow him. Her strength wasn't a challenge, it was something she offered. A gift, not a threat. They finished the board and stepped back. Caleb brushed sawdust from his palms. "Thank you." Marion simply nodded. "We build things here." "Yes." Something in her tone, steady, warm, patient, eased the knot in his stomach. It wasn't two strangers struggling to fit. It was two lives slowly learning to share space. But before he could respond, a low rumble echoed from the barn. The restless bull. Caleb stiffened. A challenge waited, and fate seemed determined to test them sooner than expected. The bull pawed at the wooden stall door, snorting clouds of white breath into the cool morning air. Caleb felt tension coil in his shoulders. That animal never started the day, calm, stubborn to the bone, always ready to test his limits. He braced himself. This wasn't a moment he wanted Marion to see. "I'll handle him," Caleb said quickly. Marion placed a steady hand on the barn door, her eyes soft but certain. "Let me see." He hesitated. Pride prickled like thorns. This was ranch work, his domain, his proof of worth. But one look at her face told him she didn't intend to take anything from him. She simply wanted to understand. Inside, the bull stomped and tossed its head, muscles rippling beneath its coat. Caleb stepped forward instinctively, ready to grab a rope. But Marion moved beside him, not past, not above, but with him. She didn't reach for tools or rope. Instead, she lowered her posture slightly, speaking in a calm, even tone. Soft words, steady breaths, as though she were greeting an old friend, not a creature twice her size. The bull snorted again, but something shifted. His ears twitched. His breathing slowed. He didn't charge or thrash, he listened. It was as though her presence carried weight of its own. A kind born from years of enduring more than life meant anyone to endure. Caleb watched, stunned, as the animal relaxed under her quiet command. "How did you—" "My father worked draft animals," she said softly. "He taught me fear is louder than strength, and strength doesn't panic." Her voice held memory, not boast, not triumph, but lived truth. Caleb swallowed. He felt no shame this time, only awe. "You're remarkable," he whispered before he could stop himself. She blinked, surprised, as though she wasn't used to hearing such words. "I only try to meet the world where it stands." Silence settled, not awkward, but warm like morning sun after frost. For the first time, Caleb didn't feel overshadowed. He felt supported, like her strength didn't erase his, but filled the spaces where his confidence faltered. And as the bull settled into calm stillness, the ranch felt different. Not larger, just less lonely. Maybe strength didn't belong only to muscles or loud men. Maybe strength could be quiet, patient, shared. And maybe, just maybe, he wasn't meant to face the frontier alone anymore. The days settled into a quiet rhythm, not perfect, not seamless, but steady. Caleb woke each morning feeling the strange pull of unfamiliar hope, as though the ranch was breathing differently with Marion here. He found himself listening for her footsteps, noticing the soft scrape of her boots on wooden floors, the low murmur of her hum as she worked. One afternoon, after hours spent mending harness straps and checking cattle, Caleb invited Marion into the kitchen. The room was small, sun spilling through the window in pale ribbons, dust drifting like slow snow in the warm stillness. "I thought," he began awkwardly, "maybe I could show you some house tasks, if you'd like." Marion tilted her head, watching him with patient curiosity. "You'd teach me?" He nodded, rubbing nervously at the back of his neck. "There's no shame in not knowing kitchen work. Took me a long time to figure it out. Nearly burned the place down learning." That earned a soft laugh, quiet, warm, like river water over smooth stones. She leaned forward slightly, sincere. "I would like that very much." He showed her how to knead bread, their hands sinking into dough side by side. At first, she pressed too firmly. Muscles conditioned for work that fought nature, not shaped it. Caleb covered her hands lightly, guiding them with gentle pressure. "Not force," he murmured. "Just patience. You ask the dough, you don't command it." Marion watched him, then tried again, slower, gentler, and somehow more vulnerable than when facing the bull. Sweat beaded at her brow, not from effort, but from concentration, from the unfamiliarity of softness. He moved to the stove, teaching her how to season stew, how to tell when the fire burned too hot, how to coax flavor from simple things. "You live alone long enough," he said, stirring carefully. "You learn to make a meal taste like company." Her eyes softened. "You speak as if loneliness has been your closest friend." He didn't answer immediately. The spoon hovered, steam curling around his fingers. "I suppose it was," he admitted. "Until you stepped off that wagon." A quiet, settled, not heavy, not awkward, but delicate. Marion's gaze lowered, and in that stillness, she did not look powerful nor imposing. She simply looked human, someone who knew emptiness as deeply as he had. The bread rested beneath a cloth, the stew simmered. And for once, the ranch house felt less like walls against the world and more like a place where life might begin, instead of merely continue. When she looked up again, her voice was almost a whisper. "I hope I can bring good companionship here, Caleb, not just work." "You already have," he replied, and he meant it. The first whisper reached Caleb before he even saw who spoke it. He and Marion rode into town for supplies, wheels bumping over dusty ruts. When two women near the general store paused mid-conversation, they didn't hide their glances. They didn't lower voices. "Poor man," one murmured. "Wanted a gentle bride, and got a draft mule in skirts." A sharp, brittle laugh followed. The second woman shook her head. "No wonder he's so quiet." She could toss him like a sack of feed. Caleb felt his throat tighten. Shame wasn't foreign to him, smallness, insecurity. The sense of never filling the boots people expected of a man. But hearing it out loud, in front of her, it cut deeper than barbed wire. Beside him, Marion's posture didn't falter. She didn't stiffen, didn't rush forward to silence them. She simply placed a calm hand on the wagon bench, fingers steady as stone. Her face remained composed, but something flickered in her eyes, not hurt, but an old, familiar endurance. She'd heard words like those before, survived them, carried them like a hidden scar. Inside the store, Caleb reached instinctively for heavier sacks than he needed, trying to move with exaggerated strength. His shoulders strained, his jaw clenched. If he could just lift enough, carry enough, prove enough, maybe they'd stop looking at him like he was less. Marion stepped forward gently. "Caleb," she said quietly, "you don't need to do that." He swallowed, voice tight. "I can handle the feed." "I know you can," she said softly. "But you don't have to wrestle the whole world today." Her hand brushed his sleeve, small touch, steady grounding. Outside, the jeers still clung to the dust. Caleb hated that he wanted to defend himself to strangers. Hated more that he feared Marion might see truth in their cruelty. "Does it bother you?" he asked as they loaded the wagon. "What they say?" Marion tied the rope with sure, practiced movements. "Words can bruise," she replied, "but bruises fade. It's the silence afterward that decides who we are." He looked at her, really looked, and realized she carried battles he'd never seen. Not just with land and beasts, but with people who feared strength they didn't understand. "I didn't want you to face this," Caleb whispered. Marion met his gaze. "We face it together." Something inside him steadied. The wind still carried whispers, but now, instead of hollowing him out, they seemed smaller, less powerful than the quiet certainty sitting beside him. They turned the wagon toward home, dust rising like old judgments shaken loose beneath their wheels. The sky darkened by afternoon, heavy clouds gathering like bruises along the horizon. Caleb glanced upward, uneasy. Storms here didn't ask permission. They claimed earth with wind and water and fury. "We should hurry," he said. "This one's coming fast." By the time they reached the ranch, the first fat drops splashed against the wagon boards. They rushed to shelter animals, securing loose doors, tying down tools before wind turned them into weapons. Thunder cracked like the world splitting. Lightning tore across the sky, then another, closer, and the cattle surged in panic. Caleb's boots slipped in mud as he tried to guide them. But fear swelled in the herd like a rising tide. Marion didn't shout commands, she moved with deliberate calm, voice low and steady as she coaxed the animals toward shelter. Her sleeves soaked, hair plastered against her cheeks. She moved through chaos like a rooted oak. A frightened calf slipped near Caleb, legs kicking wildly in mud. Before he could reach it, Marion was already there, lifting the trembling creature with steady arms, guiding it to safety. Wind howled. Rain stung like gravel. Caleb's strength faltered, arms burning as he struggled with a gait heavy with water and mud. His boots slid, body bracing, just as another gust slammed against him. Hands caught the gate beside him. Marion's hands, strong but not overpowering, simply there, sharing the weight. "You're not alone," she said through rain. Together, they forced the gate shut. Thunder boomed again, but something inside Caleb didn't shake this time. Their breathing heavy, soaked to the bone. They stood in the storm's roar, not conquered, but weathered. When the rain eased and sky cracked open with exhausted light, mud clung to their clothes and exhaustion pulled at their limbs. Still, Marion smiled, faint, tired, real. "You did well," she said softly. Caleb let out a breath he hadn't realized he held. "We did." He expected her to shrug it off, to dismiss effort as a necessity. Instead, she reached up, brushing mud from his cheek with tenderness, surprising even herself. "You don't have to be big to be strong, Caleb," she whispered. His heart thudded. Not from labor, from the truth in her voice. From being seen fully, without comparison or doubt. Storms had shaped them both. But here, in the quiet after thunder, he felt something new grow between them. Not just partnership, trust, respect. A quiet bond that the world did not build and could not break. The storm had washed the land clean. And for a day, the ranch breathed in quiet peace. Sunlight returned slow and soft, as if afraid to disturb what had been mended. The fields glistened with dew. Steam rising from sun-warmed earth like prayers whispered upward. Caleb moved through morning chores with a steadiness he hadn't known before. His shoulders still bore the ache of yesterday's labor, but beneath it sat something sturdier than muscle. Certainty. Not loud, not proud, simply present. He glanced toward the barn and saw Marion brushing down one of their mares. Humming low, sleeves rolled, hair falling loose around her face. The mare nudged her shoulder gently, and Marion laughed, a sound so warm and unexpected that it struck Caleb like sunlight through storm clouds. It felt like home. Not the place, not the walls, her. He walked over, boots crunching gravel. Marion looked up, and a faint flush rose on her cheeks, though her stance remained steady. "Morning," she said. "Morning," he hesitated, then added softly, "Thank you." "For the storm." "For everything," he replied. "You never falter." Her gaze softened, but she shook her head. "Strength isn't never bending, Caleb, it's bending without breaking." She paused. "And sometimes, letting someone bend with you." The idea sat inside him like a seed, quiet and powerful. They worked side by side in comfortable silence until midday. When the sun reached its highest point, Caleb gathered something in his chest that had been brewing since town. Since whispers, since storms, since quiet porch lights. "I want to show you something," he said. Marion blinked, surprised but intrigued. "Where?" He gestured toward a grassy slope behind the house. A place few visited, a place Caleb kept for memory. They walked up the hill, wind tugging at hats and skirts, sky wide as promise above them. At the crest stood a single weather-worn marker of wood, simple and humble. Caleb paused, breath steadying. "My mother wanted to be buried where she could see everything grow," he murmured. "Said the land listens better than people do." Marion's expression softened with reverence. She didn't speak, didn't fill silence with sympathy or apology. She let space breathe around his memory, giving it dignity. "She always told me," Caleb continued, voice low, "that strength isn't loud. It's what stays when wind takes everything else." He turned to Marion then, and his voice steadied. "You showed me that. I've been trying to be something I thought a man should be. But you taught me to be something I could be." Her breath caught, not from shock, but from recognition, like she'd been waiting for truth to find its voice. For a long breath, Marion didn't speak. The wind combed the grass around them, soft as prayer, and the sky stretched endless above, a witness to moments that changed quiet lives. Caleb didn't rush her. He stood still, hands loose at his sides, letting truth rest between them without fear. He'd learned patience from her, not the kind that waits helplessly, but the kind rooted in trust. Finally, Marion exhaled, eyes glistening not with tears, but with clarity. "Caleb," she began, voice steady as a river carving stone. "I came here thinking I needed someone strong enough to withstand me." She looked down at her hands, hands shaped by work, by earth, by survival. "People see my size and think strength means never needing anyone, but I—" Her voice softened, raw and honest. "I have been lonely in rooms full of praise, and strong in moments when all I wanted was rest. I did not want to be admired. I wanted to be met." She lifted her gaze to him, eyes fierce and tender. "And you, quiet, stubborn, determined, you met me. Not with pride, but with steadiness, with patience, with heart." A slow smile warmed her face, fragile and mighty at once. "Yes, Caleb, I choose this place. I choose this life. I choose you." Relief didn't crash into Caleb. It bloomed, gentle and radiant, spreading like sunrise across chest and soul. He reached into his pocket, fingers trembling slightly around the small silver band he'd carried for days, waiting for courage to match feeling. He held it out, simple, unpolished, honest. "Then, let us build what we chose," he whispered. Side by side. Marion's breath hitched just once, then she extended her hand. Not dainty, not delicate, but strong, like the land itself. Caleb slid the ring onto her finger, and the world didn't erupt. It settled. It felt right, like earth learning rain again. They walked down the hill hand in hand, no dramatic declarations, no cheering crowd, only wind and sky and soil bearing witness. But in that quiet, something grand stirred. The wedding was small, a preacher from town, a few curious neighbors, simple flowers gathered from fields. Whispers rose at first, old habits dying slow. But as vows were spoken, low, earnest, full faces softened. Judgment faltered. Respect took root. Marion stood tall in a plain dress, hair braided like pioneer women before her. Caleb wore his cleanest shirt, no flourish, no pretense. When they exchanged rings, it felt less like claiming and more like recognizing. Not halves made whole, but two wholes joining. Afterward, they returned to their ranch, not to rest, but to begin. They planted new fence stakes, fed the animals, shared bread they'd learned to bake together, laughed when it burned on one side, fixed it anyway. Evening settled like a blessing. Lantern glowed on the porch. Marion leaned her head against Caleb's shoulder, and he rested his hand over hers. Silence wrapped them, not empty, but full.